So I want to start off with something that most firms face is a traditional accounting firm. So we've got 15,000 accounting firms in Australia alone. And the traditional firm, I mean, why do you think it's so hard for a traditional firm to implement Microsoft Power BI?
So I've been involved in the space of Power BI for the last 6 to 7 years. So we came across it because a particular client needed more in-depth real-time reporting system and better reports, and was available by the software that they were using. The operational software just didn't have the data for them. So we looked at a few options. We looked at Power BI, we looked at Tableau. At the time, Tableau was quite expensive per seat. You were paying thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars a year for that. Whereas Power BI was coming off of the bat with free, and we're thinking, well, you can't argue with that too much. And it's coming from Microsoft, and it clearly had the capability to do what we wanted, and we knew that we could get the data out. In that case, it was through an AO data feed. But there is a big learning curve. So on the surface of it, it looks like Excel formulas, and nearly every accountant will have exposure to Excel, and everyone loves their spreadsheets, right? And it makes it look quite simple, or deceptively simple, to be able to learn how relationship tables work and how DAX, or data analytics expressions, is formulated. But it's really it's a different game, so to speak. And you need to be able to have a little bit of time and resource and commitment and, I guess, vision to be able to follow through and dedicate some time to actually learn how it works and to put that process in place. So just looping back to the question, why is it hard for maybe people to get into this space, is that if you have someone who is, let's say you're an accountant in a traditional accounting firm, and you've got your compliance work in addition to trying to learn Power BI, then the thing that's paying the bills at the moment is the compliance work. That's the stuff that's got a deadline that you've got to really get done. And then this Power BI thing is kind of this new exciting sort of thing that you want to grow. But what you're used to and what you do every day is going to be compliance work, because that's what needs to be done. That's what you're used to. That's what is a steady source of income. So that's where your focus goes. Any time that you get busy, your focus goes over here.
So implementing Microsoft Power BI without Atani would be, I would imagine, near impossible. I wouldn't know where to start. I think accountants really don't have that technical and technological understanding of what it is and how you would pull your client zero data out of zero into a warehouse, then into a data. We just don't have that knowledge and that skill set. It probably depends on how you run yourself and run your team, and how much you're already growing your existing client base at the moment. It depends how much time you have. If you've got the time to invest into it up front and learn how to, learning Atani is not difficult. Learning how to program effectively in Power BI is complex, and learning how the data model works and the relationships between the data works, and fixing errors and issues that arise as you're trying to do things, that is extremely complex and very, very hard to learn. It's not to say you can't. You could learn it and you could become an expert in it, and people have, but it just depends if that's where you want to be spending your time.
So yeah, all our different vendors all have their own Power BI reporting packs. Okay. But the problem is that because they're locked down to a particular platform, you're not able to interact with them in terms of plugging in other bits of software, that we've become to know it as something that you just look at to get a result rather than actually formulate an answer to. So I think that very much it's viewed by a lot of clients, by a lot of firms, as a consumption rather than a production tool. And I guess that's where we want to change people's mindset, is that I personally think that in 5 years' time, we're going to be using Power BI to do things like analyze transactions, do audits, do compilations of different items, more so than just looking at some numbers in a page. We're actually going to drill down and we're going to analyze businesses, not just consume. But to do that, We need to learn some of the tools in Power BI to be able to do that analysis. I'm not talking about necessarily designing reports. I don't think most firms need to learn how to design reports to any great extent, but I think they need to learn how to interact and understand what the data does.
So we were heavy users of Spotlight before we went to Atani, and we actually paid money to Spotlight to build our reports off the report codes to get some of the flexibility that we wanted. But the problem is you sit in the meeting and say, look, this is what this quarter was or year to date. You go, oh, what did I do last year? And you'd be fumbling through different static reports to find that information. So we knew that if we could build a report, we could hit a button on the fly with the client or bring up the exact comparison. You'd get momentum and a much more meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what we were really missing. So, we've got, everyone, large majority of our clients use Xero. So why wouldn't you plug Power BI in to get out the reports the clients really need? And it gets even more powerful than that too. And I'll show you in a bit of a demo how we built some custom and supplier reports that no other system really has. And then we can actually pull that down as well.